I was a kid, one of my heroes was a guy named Bob Briggle, because he had a car that could do something nobody else's car could do.
When people think about Jay Leno's legendary garage, they usually picture the obvious stars: million-dollar McLarens, vintage Bugattis, rare Duesenbergs, and perfectly restored muscle cars. But those headline-grabbing machines aren't the real secret hidden inside his collection. Tucked away in quiet corners are vehicles so unusual that even longtime fans of Jay Leno's garage often overlook them completely. Some represent engineering ideas that were decades ahead of their time. Others belong to manufacturers that disappeared long ago. And one car isn't even supposed to exist anymore. What makes Leno's collection remarkable isn't simply its size. It's the stories behind the machines. Rather than chasing the world's most expensive automobiles, Leno has spent decades searching for forgotten engineering experiments, failed innovations, and rare prototypes that changed automotive history, even if history eventually forgot them. One of the most fascinating examples is the Chrysler Turbine car. At first glance, it resembles a stylish luxury coupe from the 1960s. But once the engine starts, everything changes. Instead of the familiar rumble of a V8, the car emits a high-pitched whine that sounds more like a passenger jet preparing for takeoff than a road car. That's because beneath its elegant body sits an actual gas turbine engine. Back in the early 1960s, Chrysler believed turbine power might replace traditional piston engines. The company built just 55 prototype cars and launched one of the boldest public experiments in automotive history. Instead of hiding the prototypes inside laboratories, Chrysler handed them to ordinary American families. Drivers used them for grocery shopping, commuting, and daily life while engineers collected feedback. Surprisingly, many participants loved the cars. Turbine engines required fewer moving parts and could operate using several different fuels, including diesel, kerosene, and even certain types of alcohol. It seemed like the future had arrived. But economics told a different story. The cars were expensive to build, difficult to mass-produce, and ultimately impractical for commercial success. When the project ended, Chrysler destroyed nearly every prototype. Only a handful escaped destruction, making surviving examples extraordinarily rare. Jay Leno dreamed about owning one ever since he saw a turbine car at the 1964 World's Fair as a young boy. Decades later, he finally managed to buy one of the surviving examples. Even then, the story wasn't over. Years after purchasing it, the complex turbine engine failed completely. Replacement parts simply didn't exist anymore. Most collectors would have accepted defeat and parked the vehicle permanently. Leno refused. He tracked down engineers connected to the original program, eventually bringing together specialists capable of rebuilding an engine that many believed could never run again. Today, his turbine car doesn't just sit behind velvet ropes. It actually drives, preserving one of America's boldest engineering experiments for future generations. Yet, amazingly, that isn't even the strangest vehicle hiding inside his garage. Nearby sits something that looks almost laughably ordinary: a tiny Ford Festiva. Most people would walk past it without giving it a second glance. That's exactly what makes it special. Hidden beneath the modest economy car body is one of the wildest performance machines ever created. Known as the Ford Shogun, this bizarre project replaced the tiny factory engine with a powerful Yamaha-built V6 normally found in the Ford Taurus SHO. Engineers relocated the engine behind the front seats, transformed the drivetrain into rear-wheel drive, and created a lightweight monster disguised as an inexpensive commuter car. The performance was astonishing. Despite resembling an ordinary hatchback, the Shogun could accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 5 seconds, embarrassing genuine sports cars costing far more money. Only 8 were ever built. Jay Leno purchased his example brand new and has treasured it ever since. True to his personality, he didn't leave it completely stock either. He later added a nitrous oxide system, making an already outrageous sleeper even faster. The genius of the Shogun isn't just its speed. It's the deception. Nothing about its appearance warns other drivers that they're lining up beside a machine capable of humiliating much more expensive performance cars. It remains one of the greatest sleeper vehicles ever built, and one of the least recognized treasures inside Leno's enormous collection. As unusual as these cars may seem, they still resemble conventional automobiles. The next creations blur the line between transportation and rolling artwork. Designed by craftsman Randy Grubb, the decopods look like miniature rocket ships straight out of a 1930s science fiction comic. Built from heavily modified Piaggio scooters, every aluminum body panel was handcrafted to create sleek, aerodynamic shapes inspired by the Art Deco era. These machines aren't simply sculptures. They're fully functional road vehicles capable of leaning through corners just like ordinary scooters while attracting attention everywhere they travel. Only a tiny number were ever produced, making them some of the rarest creations in Jay Leno's garage. For Leno, rarity alone isn't enough. Every vehicle must tell an unforgettable story, represent an ambitious engineering idea, or preserve a forgotten chapter of automotive history. And deeper inside the garage, another nearly forgotten legend is waiting to do exactly that. As incredible as the decopods may be, they are only the beginning of the forgotten treasures hidden inside Jay Leno's garage. Deeper into the collection sits a car that represents an entire chapter of American automotive history most people have never even heard of. It's called the Cunningham C-3. Unlike Ferrari or Porsche, Cunningham isn't a household name. Yet during the 1950s, its founder, Briggs Cunningham, had an ambitious dream: to defeat Europe's greatest manufacturers at the legendary 24 Hours of Le Mans using an American-built car driven by American racers. To qualify as a manufacturer, Cunningham was required to produce road-going versions of his racing machines. The result was the beautiful C3 coupe, powered by a mighty Chrysler Hemi V8 and clothed in handcrafted Italian bodywork. Only 25 examples were ever completed. Although the company never became commercially successful, the C3 proved that American engineering could compete with the world's best. Today, it represents one of the rarest production cars ever built, and Leno proudly preserves one of these forgotten masterpieces. But hidden nearby is something even more extraordinary. Most people know about Chrysler's Turbine experiment from the 1960s, but very few realize Leno owns another turbine-powered vehicle, one created more than 40 years later. Known as the EcoJet, this futuristic machine began as a simple conversation between Jay Leno and his longtime chief mechanic, Bernard Jutchley. Together with General Motors designers, they imagined what a modern turbine-powered supercar might look like if engineers had continued developing the concept instead of abandoning it decades earlier. The result looks like something straight out of a science fiction movie. Its body is constructed from carbon fiber and Kevlar, while the power comes from a Honeywell turbine engine originally designed for helicopters. Producing around 650 horsepower, the EcoJet delivers breathtaking acceleration along with an unmistakable jet-like scream. Unlike ordinary concept cars that spend their lives inside museums, Leno actually drives it. Fuel economy certainly isn't its strongest feature, but practicality was never the point. The EcoJet exists to demonstrate what automotive engineering can achieve when imagination isn't limited by convention. Continuing through the garage reveals another fascinating pattern. Many of Leno's favorite vehicles come from companies that no longer exist. One example is the Wills St. Clair, created by C. Harold Wills, one of Henry Ford's earliest and most influential engineers. Wills helped develop advanced steel for the Model T before leaving Ford to build luxury automobiles under his own name. Despite introducing innovative engineering features, his company eventually disappeared, leaving only a handful of surviving cars. Then there's the NSU Spider. Long before Mazda popularized rotary engines, the small German manufacturer NSU introduced the world's first production rotary-powered automobile. Although technically impressive, reliability problems prevented widespread success, and the company eventually disappeared into automotive history. Leno owns one because it represents an important milestone that many enthusiasts overlook. Another forgotten gem is the Jensen CV8. Built in Britain but powered by an American Chrysler V8, the Jensen combined European styling with American muscle decades before such combinations became fashionable. Only a limited number were ever produced, making surviving examples extremely collectible today. These aren't merely rare cars. They're reminders that innovation doesn't always guarantee commercial success. Some of the most brilliant engineering ideas simply arrive too early or failed to find the right audience. Yet perhaps the greatest surprise in Jay Leno's garage is waiting until the very end. It wears one of the most recognizable luxury badges in automotive history. The Mercedes-Benz 600 was already considered one of the world's most prestigious automobiles when it debuted. Heads of state, celebrities, royalty, and political leaders all desired one because it represented unmatched engineering and craftsmanship. Everything about the car was extraordinary. Its hydraulic system operated nearly every major function, from the windows and seats to the trunk lid and sunroof. The massive V8 engine effortlessly moved the enormous luxury sedan, while its engineering quality quickly became legendary. Finding a standard Mercedes 600 today is already difficult. Finding Jay Leno's example is something else entirely. His 1972 model has been extensively upgraded with modern fuel injection and a supercharger, increasing its output dramatically while preserving the car's original character. Automotive experts believe it may be the only supercharged Mercedes-Benz 600 of its kind anywhere in the world. Maintaining such a machine isn't cheap or easy. Even relatively simple replacement parts can cost thousands of dollars, while servicing the complicated hydraulic system requires specialists with decades of experience. Most collectors would hesitate to drive such an irreplaceable automobile. Jay Leno does the exact opposite. He believes cars were built to move, not simply to be admired behind ropes in climate-controlled museums. That philosophy is what truly separates his collection from almost every other in the world. Whether it's a forgotten prototype, an abandoned engineering experiment, a vanished automobile brand, or a one-of-a-kind luxury sedan, Leno starts the engines, takes the cars onto the road, and keeps automotive history alive exactly as it was intended. Perhaps that's the biggest secret hidden inside Jay Leno's famous garage. The real treasure isn't the price tags or the rarity. It's the passion to preserve machines that shaped automotive history before the world forgot they ever existed. And that may be the most remarkable collection of all.